presentation from the Limbo Project, Miss Cosi Doerfel Hill.
Thank you, Rahul. Hello, Manchester.
Hello.
Yeah, that's more like it. Many thanks to the organisers and to Manchester for EU for inviting me to speak to you today about the In Limbo project and how Brexit is affecting EU citizens in the UK and British citizens in the EU. We are a not-for-profit project and also work closely with the 3 million, increasingly inaccurately named, seeing there were 6 million applications to the EU settlement scheme, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Groups like Settled, Remain in Spain, British in Europe, and the various country groups, the Grassroots for EU groups, and many, many more, including, of course, our almost sibling group, Brexpats Hear Our Voice. So I'm not alone. They are all here with me, and I've also brought with me 300 friends who are the contributors to these two books. We represent a small sample of the millions of citizens in the UK and in the EU who are in limbo and have lived in uncertainty for over 5 years now, at times not knowing what our rights would be a single week ahead, much less being able to plan for the future. Add to that are approximately 15 to 20 million family members who are British citizens, and you will find that almost a third of the British population has been silenced. In order to find others and amplify our voices, Elena Remigi started a Facebook group, collected testimonies over 4 weeks in spring 2017, and published the first book called In Limbo on the first anniversary of the referendum, right here. I've got some copies of the second edition with me as well. In 2018, we worked with the group Brexpats Hear Our Voice to publish our second book on the second anniversary of that referendum. So, the In Limbo 2 testimonies speak of the anger of the British citizens resident in mainland Europe, who feel not only betrayed, as we all do, but also ashamed and cast adrift. They are incensed that we are used as bargaining chips, and I do have the chip on my shoulder to prove it. Allegedly to secure their rights, but really this serves no other purpose but to divide and rule, as this government also undermines their rights. Instead, they stand with us in solidarity. We're twins, we're mirror images of each other and flip sides of the same coin. We focus on the human side and aim to touch hearts and open minds by giving a voice to just a few of the individuals who've been portrayed in the media as a depersonalised mass of migrants, which is actually and factually incorrect. We are citizens, whether EU or British, and before Brexit, we were all equal and benefiting from the same rights. Before the end of the Article 50 period, I worked so hard and missed my children's childhoods into the bargain to make British people aware of how all our rights are being undermined. These are all our rights, your rights as much as mine. I did this because, to quote Edmund Burke, for evil to prevail, all that is necessary is for good people to do nothing. In years to come, I will know what I did to stop evil. But I'm knackered. I wasn't going to do any more speeches, and instead focus all my attention and energy on helping EU citizens be less vulnerable to the hostile environment policies. Yet here I am. Because it matters that we make our voices heard, that we speak our truth and share our testimonies. Thank you. I have lived in Great Britain for 33 years. 30 of them feeling at home in the Northwest. 2 days ago was the 30th anniversary of when I moved here after 3 years in London, and I had acquired the right to apply for citizenship back in the 1990s. But this government stripped that right from me in 2011 without informing me. This hurts, and I am bitter. It's not just about Brexit. It's about the hostile environment and how our human rights are violated. That's why many have embarked on their Brexodus and walked away from the UK, shaking their heads, tearful, sad, and in search of a place where they can heal their wounds. Many have left over the last 4 years, and every day more are joining them. This testimony was posted in our group literally yesterday as I was writing this speech. I don't give up that easily. I'm a strong person with broad shoulders, but enough is enough. I moved to the UK 9 years ago out of love, without knowing that I was going to put myself in the hands of a narcissist. It took 4 traumatic years until I felt confident and safe enough in a foreign country to free myself from this personal hell. However, I couldn't go back to Germany. I had nothing, but at least I had a job here. I found a cosy new home, made new friends, and felt at home in Scotland. Then came Brexit. It didn't affect my life at first, but this has gradually changed over the years. Became really difficult after the 1st of January 2021, and since June, it is a nightmare. Now the point has been reached where I am no longer willing to tolerate the Hitler salute, no longer overlook xenophobic behaviour, no longer want to be a second-class citizen. I'm now looking forward to the prompt return to where I came from. It's just a shame that I have to stay another 11 months, but the preparations make it bearable. Certainly not all that glitters in Germany is gold, as I know from experience, but at least I have my family and best friends there, good healthcare, can keep my job, and I'm not a foreigner there. If Scotland ever becomes independent, I'll be happy to come back. So that was a testimony posted just yesterday. Many of the EU citizens who are still here, like me, feel stuck because we're too deeply rooted in our homes and communities and too attached to our British families to just up sticks. We are here for love, but it hurts. The EU settlement scheme became necessary to enable EU citizens in the UK who had hitherto exercised the treaty right to freedom of movement to get an immigration status under UK law. In spite of the Leave campaign's promise on the 1st of June 2016 that nothing would change for EU citizens already resident in the UK, this government made a choice not to use a simple declaratory system for the EU settlement scheme, but to design it as an application. An application can be denied. So I had to apply to stay in my home of 3 decades. This is done with a mobile app and a valid biometric passport. Are you surprised to hear that not absolutely everyone has a valid biometric passport and the latest Android smartphone and the digital skills to complete the application? Digital exclusion is a very real issue, and it is very serious when it jeopardizes your rights. Some applications take a very long time to be concluded, and sometimes it is possible to know why this is. For example, because the facial recognition software was unable to identify a person with a dark skin tone, and the application has to be processed by human eyes. Or because there is an old arrest case still open on the police national computer because an officer forgot to tick the box to close the case when no further action was taken. And sometimes there's no discernible reason, like in the case of this testimony posted in our group yesterday. So my daughter finally got her EUSS status today. She only applied in August 2020. Again, this is from another member of the group. And even if you can make the application without problem and get your status under the EUSS, the problems might come later. Joanna had no trouble getting settled status. Then one day she decided to check online on the website, and it said, "We cannot show your details." In other words, the computer says no. She wrote, "I decided to test if I could generate a code as my secondment is coming to an end and I wanted to start searching for jobs. To my horror, multiple attempts to generate the code failed. I've tried to use different browsers, different times of day, different days of the week with no luck. Also, the photo I have submitted with my application, now it's not available. I'm very anxious. I'm going abroad soon and I need to get this sorted." Similarly, Matty, a Spanish lady who has lived in the UK for 29 years, was moving into a newly rented accommodation, and the Home Office's website said, "The details entered don't match our records." Once again, the computer says no. She wrote, "After providing all the documents required to satisfy the new right to rent procedures, they have emailed me the day before moving to say that unless I show them the correct codes to prove my status, they won't hand me the keys tomorrow. I followed the link to the Home Office. my data doesn't work and the system doesn't recognise me at all, so I can't produce the codes. I've begged the agency to allow me to move as I have hired a van and I can't stay any longer as someone else is moving in at the weekend. But they say it is illegal. I tried the Home Office number, which is always engaged or disconnects you because there is a long queue. I am so afraid I might end up homeless. These are just two of countless examples. We've seen cases of discrimination. We had an African citizen with pre-settled status as the partner of an EU citizen whose universal credit was stopped by the DWP and his residence cards confiscated because the job centre staff couldn't understand why he had two cards, one for a family permit issued under EEA rules to allow him to enter the country to join his wife and 3 children, the other issued under the EUSS to allow him to continue to stay in the country and work to support his family. There is currently a backlog of 500,000 pending applications. Every single one of them is a person who cannot prove their rights in the UK and is at risk of being denied work, accommodation, medicine, even access to their own money in the bank or their pensions. This is why we need a physical backup to prove our status, just like a licence or a library card. Eleanor Remigi, the founder and director of the In Limbo Project, agrees with me that these are not isolated cases. It's the new normal, and the anxiety amongst citizens is palpable. She has never received more emails with urgent in the subject line than now. The In Limbo team of volunteers has signposted many citizens to seek help from organisations which could provide psychological support when it was clear that the person needed more than friendship or practical help with documents. And speaking of worry, I know that I am not the only one who decided not to go abroad this summer to see their relatives in the old country for fear of crossing the border on the way back home to the UK and being detained. Who can blame us after seeing what happened in May, even before the end of the grace period, when people were held in detention centres because border guards did not understand how to check for status under the EUSS. Then we have unhelpful episodes, such as when 70,000 letters were sent to citizens first in May and then during August, when people are more likely on holiday and not receive their letter, which stated that anyone who was in receipt of benefits or a pension would have to apply to the EUSS as soon as possible, otherwise their money would be stopped. If the letter was sent by mistake, the only way to rectify it was to contact a phone number within 28 days. The line was only open 9:30 to 4:30 and it was practically impossible to get through. So panic ensued, particularly for those who already hold a status under the EU settlement scheme or who have British citizenship. And guess what? Just yesterday, the Home Office made another such mail shot threatening people with stopping universal credit and pensions, and we are inundated with messages from people in a panic. Only this time they're advised to contact their local authorities to rectify the problem. What else can this be if not just pure chicane and deliberate torment and bullying? There are still people who have not applied to the EU settlement scheme, and they will have to make late applications and justify why the application should be accepted. To be fair, the Home Office is pragmatic in accepting late applications on a wide array of reasonable grounds, but with time they might become less accepting. So what kind of people have missed the deadline? Some are too old or vulnerable, such as the lady whose father was in a care home with dementia. She suffered from severe depression and turned to us for help, but then became unwell and vanished, and we fear that she never applied. Others missed out because with the pandemic, many places were closed for face-to-face meetings, such as embassies, and they could not renew their passports or access the support they need. Then there are the children whose parents did not complete applications for them because it was not advertised and made clear that every child has to make an individual application. By the way, even newborns within 3 months of being born, even though their rights based on the parent's resident are protected in the withdrawal agreement. The deadline for applications was 3 months ago, and still every day we come across people who didn't know that children have to apply. It is very worrying that the number of applications submitted by under 18s is much lower than anticipated. by about 12% or 1/8, while the overall number of applications was over 6 million and therefore more than double what was expected. That means that there are at least 100,000 children who are currently not lawfully resident in this country and may have problems in the future, even if they make a late application which is accepted, as they will have an interruption to their lawful residence, which can cause them to be no longer eligible for student finance and home fees should they want to go to university within 3 years of this gap in their residence, or it can affect them for 10 years if they want to naturalise and become British citizens, or for the rest of their lives for any jobs which involve a DBS check. And of those children who have applied, we know that some have been refused a status under the EUSS because the parents couldn't find enough proof of their residence, particularly if they moved during the pandemic. So imagine if you're a British citizen and you're resident in Spain and you're married to someone who happens not to be British. Now imagine that you find out you're expecting a baby. But you're super organised, and within days of finding out, weeks before you even share the news with your family, you apply for a family permit for your spouse so that he can join you in the UK and be at the birth, because you want your baby to be born in the UK to ensure it has full rights to British citizenship. That was the situation of Olivia, who contacted us at 8 months pregnant, despairing because her husband's application was still ongoing with the Home Office 6 months after it had been submitted. And in the meantime, her dad in the UK had had a stroke and she wanted to visit him in hospital. Plus, she was having to travel sooner rather than later to be able to be here for the birth. Should an expectant mother and her unborn baby be put through this kind of stress? Another British citizen is Richard, who was a church leader in Spain. His Dutch wife, Riekje, thought that she was very organised when she applied in April for a family permit to move to the UK with him at the end of July. But the permit was not granted in time. She was not allowed to enter the UK together with her husband and 4 children. When he contacted us in September, Riekje had spent weeks couch surfing with friends in Spain, living out of a little holdall of summer clothes, while Richard had to navigate the move of their household, the dog and kids, without his wife's help. Her leave to enter the UK was granted 2 days ago on the 30th of September. So how do we feel about all this? As Elena said in a recent speech, we surveyed our group members and found that people feel betrayed because of a broken promise. We've gone from nothing will change to apply or otherwise you will lose your rights. They feel unsettled because they lost their sense of home and belonging to the point that many have left or have a plan B. Some feel angry and worried because of the difficulties they're facing in proving their right to stay. And many are concerned for the elderly, for the vulnerable ones, for the less tech-savvy. Personally, I see Windrush 2.0 on steroids happening before my eyes as I watch and try to minimise the damage where I can. But I alone can't fix this. As Elena stated, the In Limbo Project will continue to ensure that people don't fall through the net, and we will keep raising awareness of the effects of Brexit on citizens who lawfully exercise their treaty rights until the rules changed. We will try to keep the attention high on these issues and to create a solidarity network offering support and guidance to avoid the silence which surrounded the Windrush generation and made it harder for them to fight back. My request to you is that you please help us by calling out racism and xenophobia wherever and whenever you see it and protect the victims. Please reflect and ask the EU citizens in your life, your work, your neighbourhood, how they are. Please talk about politics, what the European Union means and what Brexit inflicts. You can check out our website and follow us on social media and buy our books and help with raising awareness. The books do make brilliant Christmas presents for the leavers in your family. To help them realise Brexit is not working. Thank you for listening.